Hey guys, welcome to another Technique Tuesday. This week's Technique Tuesday is a little bit different. I'm doing a live Technique Tuesday. And what I'd like to do is discuss my technique and how I developed my technique. It's a question that gets brought up pretty often. And I figure why not do a video on that and go live this week instead of the usual format. So the way that I developed my technique actually started when I was first starting to play, and my main influences, if you follow what I do, my main influences happens to be Metallica and Megadeth. So being a 14-year-old when I started, the first thing that popped in my mind is I got to figure out how I'm going to play these tunes. I got to figure out how I'm going to come out of this being a lead guitarist, because that's what I wanted to do more than anything, is be a lead guitar player. I didn't want to do rhythm guitar. I didn't really focus on chords in the beginning when I was playing. My main thing was to do a whole bunch of exercises, like four-finger exercises, or just patterns that I found along the way. Got interrupted there for a minute. Okay, I'm back. So, what I was saying is that the initial process began with picking up certain licks or four-finger technique, like exercises that most guitar players are familiar with. That's how I started. And what I would do is pick one particular thing and repeat it over and over and over and over and over and over. So repetition was huge into what I was doing early on. Now, I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't focus on chords because I didn't feel that chords were important to what I was trying to do. I thought that I'm going to have a rhythm guitar player. He's going to take care of that, and I'm going to step in and I'm going to do my lead work over top of it. Now, the music that I was listening to had chords, but you know, Metallica, Megadeth type stuff, you hear a lot of power chords. There are songs where there's an exception to that, definitely. But I was listening to, you know, the main thing being that I can play power chords and then I can solo. I've got this. So the main way that I developed that technique was to really focus on heavy metal riffs and parts of solos. That's how my technique initially began. On the other hand, the other thing that I did come across was, early on, there's a few names that I'd listened, that I'd heard because of players that I'd listened to. So one of those being Yngwie Malmsteen, and of course Joe Satriani and Steve Vai. And especially because of Yngwie Malmsteen, I was hearing about this concept of using violin studies to increase technique. And this is back in the early 2000s when I was getting Guitar World and Guitar One magazines. I don't think Guitar One magazines exist anymore. I think that particular one stopped. I could be wrong. Leave a comment below if that's incorrect and let me know. But the last that I heard, Guitar One stopped. But I found this article in one of the guitar magazines that had Paganini's Fifth Caprice in it, and it was one that was written by Malmsteen, and he said that this particular Caprice is one that he would play. And I'd heard some, I think like a bootleg recording of him doing it. So when I heard that, I thought, you know, that must be where it's at. I need to develop that kind of technique and the picking technique that goes along with that. So what I done is I took the excerpt that was shown and I worked that out. And later on I actually used that as the audition piece to get into undergrad. But of course, you know, where I was at the time, turned the distortion on, I'm playing along with that. I was really big into the metronome early on, so that's definitely something that I felt was important. I know a lot of my buddies that played were not so much into that, and other musicians I knew, well, being at our age, musicians, they were not into really using a metronome. But to me, the metronome was just this incredible thing, because I thought I can increase it just a little bit, and I can get that speed, and a little bit more, and a little bit more, and a little bit more. And I just kept thinking about that the whole time, that I can get better and better and better. So, to kind of recap so far where I'm at, the way I developed technique was through four-finger exercises. It was also with heavy metal tunes, especially like Master of Puppets. I worked on that to death. I kept playing that over and over and over. And I saw that they used a down stroke, so I was trying to match that up. Now when I play a song like Master of Puppets, if I play it, I use alternate picking. I don't do all downs. That was an ego thing for me, and I'm not trying to keep up with that. But parts of solos I would do, and then also working on things like the Paganini's Fifth Caprice. I'd loop that over and over and over and over. And this whole time I did have my metronome going as well. Another component of what developed my technique was I would take open strings for the most part and just do alternate picking. And I would work on, at that time, once again, because I was younger and the ego thing kicks in, you're trying to play fast, and that's what feels right to do, and it's a cool thing to try to accomplish. I'm pretty sure I focused a lot on either the 8th notes or the 16th notes, and I kept that going. So I really wanted to develop my right hand picking technique. That meant a lot to me to really develop that. So I got to a point to where I was, to my standards, from what I was being told from my buddies that was playing, is that I developed that pretty well. And I think that carried on, and that's helped me even up until up until this point as well, is that I developed my right hand technique, and I still go back and do that. The other thing that I would do is legato exercises, where I would take like 3 notes per string, and I didn't think about a particular scale. What I was thinking about was just doing a 3-note grouping. Let's see, maybe I can, I'm not plugged in, but I can at least show you the frets of what I was thinking. So I would do something where I would have like my 5th fret, my 7th, and my 9th. And what I'd do is just, and I know you can't hear it, but just give me an example here so you can see my fingers. I would just do the hammer-ons where I would have my 1st finger, my 2nd, and my 4th. Now, I didn't pay attention, like I said. I didn't have a teacher. I didn't really know much about scales. I didn't know how to play that stuff on the guitar, besides maybe a couple basic things like the pentatonic and one form of the major scale. But what I would do is just loop that over and over and over, trying to develop the left-hand technique. And that brings me to the title of this video, is how not to develop your technique, which is to be very careful when you do those type of things, like what I showed there with, using a legato pattern like that. I would play that to the point to where my wrist would be in a lot of pain. And in my mind, I was thinking that was a good thing, because I was comparing it to exercise and like weightlifting. When you train in weightlifting, if you're training in a way like a bodybuilder would, where you're trying to work on hypertrophy to really build the muscle, pull water into the muscle, those type of reps where it's a higher rep kind of a format when you're lifting as opposed to strength training. What I thought was that is a great thing to have that kind of a feeling in the wrist, where you're having a pain in the wrist, because I thought that was a good thing to have. I thought that meant that I was developing the muscles and everything was fine. And really it's the tendons, right? You're hurting the tendons. And I kept doing it, and I kept doing it. And especially like the Metallica stuff that I was not even ready for. I was trying my hardest to keep up with some of that. And I thought this is the way to go, and it's not the way to go. It's definitely not the way to go. And I'm sure if you're watching this, you know, if you're a guitarist, you already know some of these basic concepts, these basic ideas. But if not, if your guitar player has stumbled onto this and you're feeling pain when you're playing in your wrist, please stop. Don't keep pushing it to the point to where it continues to hurt. Now, if there's some kind of a tension that's there and some sort of maybe a small pain, you know, that could be something that's normal because you're trying to adjust to what you're doing, something that's new. But I would highly suggest, if you're not studying with someone, to either study with someone or reach out to me. Even reach out to me, and you know, we could possibly do video chat and discuss what's going on to see if there's something that can be improved, because you don't want to hurt your wrist. And because I'd done that, it got to a point to where, you know, growing up, I also done tobacco work. I worked in tobacco fields, and I've done, you know, a variety of other things too. And what I found is that if I lifted something, I would have these sharp pains that would shoot down into my wrist. Now, my right hand, not so much, but my left, definitely. And taking that a step further, when I went to college and was really working hard at getting better at guitar, and I was still pushing the technique thing, because I wanted to be fast. That was the whole thing in my mind, is if I didn't play a lot of notes, if I wasn't playing fast, then I wasn't a good player. And that's far from the truth. That's far from it. Phrasing, rhythmic variety is something that's much more, should be much more of a focus. You know, you want to have the technique to do what you want to do with the guitar, because you don't want that limitation. On the other hand, it's not all about playing fast and trying to outdo somebody. That's a horrible way to look at it. So please don't do that. Look at it as, what's your phrasing like? Because when you play the guitar, even though you're getting your technique up, you're wanting to communicate with people. No matter the style, you should be wanting to communicate to people. Music is a language, and you're trying to communicate. And if you're just on autopilot, just constantly, you know, just non-stop trying to play as fast as you can, it's kind of hard for the listener to grasp onto. Now, I'm sure that there's some that will argue that point and say, you know, with shred guitar, you know, they do that, and there's certain styles where they're constantly playing. I understand that. You know, that I'm a big fan of that type of playing. I get it. I understand. But overall, what I'm saying is that rhythmic variety, phrasing, that makes you stand out. That's really something that makes a high-quality musician, in my opinion. That's what, you know, at least I'm striving for, and the things that attract my ears now when I'm listening is that type of playing. So, but fast forwarding, when I went to college, and I continued to try to play as much as I could, as fast as I could, what started to happen was that my left hand, my pinky and my ring finger would go numb, and they would go numb for days at a time. You know, and I was practicing. I have to be honest about it, I was not practicing everything that my teachers wanted me to practice, and I know that they know that, you know, because I would go in and not have the material prepared, because I felt that I had better insight and I had a better way of seeing it, and that was a mistake. But regardless, I was playing, I was putting in anywhere from 3 to 5 hours of constantly playing, and then the fingers went numb for days, and I had to stop playing for a little bit, you know, for about a week, and then went to a massage therapist, and they worked with me on you know, proper stretching and making sure that I didn't get back into the sort of technique that would cause that same kind of pain again. So that's how I developed my technique, and as you know, because of the links I put up, I do have a technique lesson that I put up on musiclessons.com. If you're interested in that, there will be a link that I'll put below, so you can find that. Also, if you guys like what I'm doing on here, if you like my music, then I'll throw out that I do have a Patreon page, and it is linked also below. There's no obligation. Don't feel obligated to do this, because I know that there, in my mind, there's can be sort of a stigma with Patreon. I'm not saying that any of you have to do that. You know that, and you can easily not follow me, or you know, you could stop and unsubscribe if you really didn't like what I'm doing. But you know, I don't want to lose you guys on that, and I want to continue to develop a community. But if you like what I'm doing, if you wanted to stop by Patreon, I put up my latest album that I recorded, so that's on there. And I also have a video where I've done a talk on my practice routine. So if you're interested in that, click the link below on the Patreon. Please don't forget to subscribe. I also, from watching people that I follow here on YouTube, also turn on your notifications. That way you know when I put on the video. It's a little bell icon. Turn on your notifications. That way you know that I put up a new video. And I want to say thanks to all you guys for your support. We're coming towards the end of the year. It's Thanksgiving this week, so I want to tell you guys that I'm really thankful that you have subscribed to my channel, that you continue to support what I do, that you leave comments on my videos. Brian is one who comments on my videos. You know, I thank you guys so much for that. It means a lot to me. It's hard to believe when I think back about the early beginnings of playing that I would be at a point right now where I could go online and reach people all around the world with my music and my videos. My goal when I first was starting to play music was to communicate with people through music, to reach as many people as I could and communicate, because I feel it's a universal language. And that was a huge goal of mine in the beginning, and it's still a goal that I push to achieve, is to communicate more and more and to develop a community of people that really engage in music and wanting to learn more. So you guys are helping me to accomplish that. So thank you for all that you have done, and I want you guys to stay tuned for another Technique Tuesday video next week. I'm working on some things right now with intervallic chords. I posted up some Technique Tuesday videos on that before, but I'm turning that into an online lesson, possibly a course. So thanks again, guys. I want you guys to have a great Thanksgiving. Please don't forget to subscribe, and I hope to see you soon.